in the business world, there's such a push right now for storytelling. And I think some businesses really get it and some do not. And they just don't realize, like, hey, if we just share a story, or if we, get in front of a camera, which is hard for people to get in front of a camera, get in front of a microphone and be a little vulnerable and share about that.
Welcome back to the TrustBuilt Podcast. I'm your host, Alan Bennett. This is a podcast about building trust as a foundation for an organization. Today's guest, we have Danielle, and she is going to bring a lot of energy to the show today. So Danielle you've got two jobs, right?
Yes.
Well, I'm not going to, you know what? I'm not going to introduce you. I'm going to let you introduce your two jobs because I am fascinated about what you're doing.
All right. Awesome. Well, I'm the owner and editor-in-chief of Peekaboo Magazine, which is a children and family magazine in Northwest Arkansas. It was published from 2008 to 2020. And this year, my husband and I purchased it and brought it back. And so we've had a couple of issues already out, and it's going really well. It's very exciting. And then my other job, which is more of a hobby, but also a big part of just giving back to the community, is I co-host a podcast called People of Northwest Arkansas. And my co-host is also named Danielle. And so we're the two Danielles. And we interview people that live in the area and share their stories of how they got here, or if they grew up here, what their story is all about, whether they're a business owner, an artist, a musician, stay-at-home mom. So we interview just a little bit about everybody, and we're entering our third season this fall.
There's so much going on there that I'm kind of like that squirrel on Ice Age. I'm like, oh, which one do I go after? And so I want to unpack both of them.
Okay.
Because I think they're both cool.
Okay, thank you.
Let's start with Peekaboo.
Okay.
All right. First of all, where did that name come from?
That's a great question. It originated with the original founder, and so I don't recall exactly where the name came from. I think it was I do remember now. Sorry, just as I was talking about it. So the original founder of Peekaboo, she was a journalism major at the University of Arkansas, and she grew up in Northwest Arkansas. And then when she was married a couple of years after graduating, and she had a 2-year-old daughter, and she was kind of at a loss, like, what does this world look like as a parent? Where are the places that parents are going? Where are the parks? What doctors do I go to? What are the things that I need to know as a parent? And so she took her journalism degree and put it to use and started the magazine Peekaboo. So the first issue was February of 2008. Her daughter is on the cover, who is now a University of Arkansas student as well. I know, and she's writing a column for our magazine now, but that was kind of how it started. And her daughter loved the game Peekaboo. And so it kind of became this resource for parents to share stories of families that lived here in the community, and then also help parents connect through resources, recommendations, advice, and just the list goes on. And so it started to thrive. It was a small magazine. It was kind of a digest size of a magazine, so it was easy for people to grab and just throw in their diaper bag. And so the first generation of Peekaboo readers, they're very nostalgic for the magazine. Their kids are all in high school and beyond now, and so it's been kind of fun, kind of circulating back to that. So sorry, I went on and on about this, but yeah.
That's great given the background, because the magazine that I just looked at is not that throw in a diaper bag magazine.
Correct.
So talk about that journey. Is that your entrepreneurial bug?
Yeah, I think so. I would kind of consider myself a serial entrepreneur. I am an Enneagram 7. If you know anything about the Enneagram, which I'm sure you do, I really just love seeking projects, but they all kind of center around media, and they all center around community and people. And so anything that I've kind of had my hand in has been involved with that documentary film, the work that I'm doing with the magazine, the work that I'm doing with the podcast. And so with Peekaboo, I actually wrote for Peekaboo back in the day a few times for Kim. And then our kids went to school together. So I got to know her through that experience as well. And so reached out and thought, okay, like actually the story, let me back up a little bit. So I wanted to bring it back because I was working in marketing at the time, and I reached out to her to see if she was going to bring Peekaboo back because I wanted somewhere to advertise for kids events. And she said, probably not. And I said, would you be interested in selling it? And she said, maybe, it depends on who it is. And I said, would you like to have coffee? And then I went home that night and my husband was like, but you work a full-time job. How are you going to do this? Because I left the entrepreneurial world to just work a full-time job. I kind of been burnt out, just kind of wasn't getting to where I wanted to be. And so I just wanted something a little bit more consistent and stable. And so I took on a full-time position in marketing just for multiple reasons: consistency and schedule, just having kids and activities more, and wanting to have a little bit more balance. And now here I am, no balance. I do have balance. I'm just kidding. So when we met, it was over a series of meetings at Confident Coffee in Rogers, which is one of my favorite coffee shops here. I love coffee. And we came to agreement that we would buy the brand outright, and she would stay on board as a mentor and an advisor for us. And part of our contract with her is just having a column indefinitely. So because we want to really hold fast to that legacy that she built and really honor what she built, but bring it into a new generation. So kind of getting back to your question about why is it a different size and why did we choose to do this? I think that there's been a resurface of printed materials, magazines, publications. We're seeing it here throughout Northwest Arkansas and just throughout the world. I think COVID did a number on us. I think that connection that we missed out on, being able to see people and touch people, and then the digital world just being flooded with so much information and just so many things for us to look at, that there was something that we needed to touch and hold. And I think having something that's specific for families is really special. And this community has grown. And so we wanted something that represented that growth, something bigger. It's a bigger community. We wanted something that stood out a little bit more, that was a traditional size magazine. If you've touched it, you can tell that it has this soft touch. It has a different feel to it than your typical magazines. And we were very purposeful on that, and really wanted to provide a product that people wanted to sit and spend time with. And surprisingly enough, the cost wasn't very different. It was not, some people are like, well, why didn't you do the glossy finish instead of the matte? And I said, it didn't cost any difference to do matte finish over glossy, and it leaves an imprint on people. So, yeah.
Yeah, I did notice that the pages were easy to flip.
Yeah.
That's one thing that stood out to me. Of course, I'm a guy,
Yeah.
But I could go through the pages. I'm like, I don't have to lick my fingers to read this.
No, you do not. And you're not going to leave any fingerprint marks.
Right.
So it's been really great. We're working with a local printer in Springdale, Arkansas, and they have been fantastic to work with. And so not only were they instrumental in kind of helping us choose that paper and choose, what the coding was going to be for the magazine, but we also get to go in and watch the magazine be printed. And that is so special. Yeah.
I can't help myself because I'm for this TrustBuilt podcast, right? And so I'm always listening for how does trust fit into this conversation?
Yeah.
And the consistent thing that I'm hearing throughout this conversation is connection.
Yes.
It's all about connection. You're connected with the printer, connected with the original owner, and she's still connected to the business, connected to the community.
Yeah.
Connected to having empathy or connection with the reader so that they can flip the pages like myself, right? So it's connection.
Yes.
Is that intentional for you?
Oh, absolutely. I think that is such a core part of who I am. It's really funny when I love sharing how my husband and I met. I won't go into all the details. If you want to hear, you can listen to my podcast. But on our first date, when we were driving in the car, driving to the movies or dinner, wherever we were going. And he says, I love people. And I was like, I love people. And I remember just being so excited to find somebody that I could share something I'm so passionate about. And it sounds silly, but I really genuinely love people. So my background is in film, my degree is in film, and I've done documentary film and short form film. And I meet people all the time and I say, oh man, your story would be such a great documentary. And my husband laughs at me and he's like, you can't make a documentary about everyone. No, I can't. So being able to tell people's stories through podcasting and through a magazine and still through film. I have a film that's still in post-production. So it's just, it really is a core of who we are. You think about way back when storytelling was such a huge part. I mean, back to the Egyptian days, Native Americans, it's all such a part of who we are as people. It's a core element of sharing those stories, passing them on from generation to generation, whether they're through families or whether they're through media or through friends. I think that there's something so special about everyone's story. And I'll meet people where they're like, oh, my story's not that important. And then I'll start talking to them and I'm like, no, see, that is important. That part is important. I like to be personable with people. One thing I learned through my business when I was doing marketing is I found that some people didn't like that. It was very alarming to me that people thought I was too personable and they thought I had ulterior motives. And I was like, no, this is just who I am. Like, I just genuinely love people and I love community and I love doing life with people. I know I'm probably going to mess up this quote. Tim Keller, do you know Tim Keller? So he has this quote talking about this being known and this fear that we have as people is that people will fully know us and not love us. And what we really want is for people to fully know us and to love us. And I think that is such a core part of being human is we want to be known and we want to know others. And that's just kind of who I am. I love knowing people, and not because of their status or what they can give to me or provide for me, but because they're just a unique person and they have an interesting story. And it's, I don't know, just fun. So hopefully that answers your question, but I think that's a big part of trust.
Yeah.
Getting to know people and doing life with them. And I think one of the questions that you gave me to prepare for was how I got through this, and getting through the magazine is having those core people, those friendships, and those people that are cheering us on. I know we're sitting here in Go Rogue Studios, and they have been major cheerleaders for me and for our businesses, both the podcast and the magazine.
I can't help but take this to the next level. It's a connection. And as you were telling your story of connection, maybe it's me making it up, but I kept hearing in the background compassion for others. Am I on track, or is that me just being overly creative?
No, I think that you're right. I mean, I think that sometimes it's hard to admit those things that we're passionate about because we don't want to come across as humble bragging or whatever it is. But I think about my documentary that's in post-production right now is about stage 4 breast cancer. It's about terminal breast cancer. It's about something that is really hard to talk about, really hard to hear about, because a lot of people don't know all the components that go into it. A lot of people don't know that it's terminal. A lot of people don't realize that when breast cancer metastasizes and spreads throughout your body, that it becomes terminal. And if something else doesn't kill you, that is what you're going to die from. And it's awful, awful. And so doing a documentary on that and following the lives of 2 women here in the area, sharing their story, following them, watching them die, I mean, you have to be a compassionate person. And is also the reason why I had to hand off the documentary to be edited by someone else, because there's no way. There's no way I could do that. I would be crying every 5 seconds. But yeah, I think that I am a compassionate person and I care about people. I have to hone that in a little bit at times, because I think in our culture, it's so easy to want to be a part of everything that's going on in the world, thinking globally, like starving children and cancer and all the things that are happening around the world. There's so many things that we want to help and give our time and effort to. And I've realized that for me, I want to focus on local. I think that that has become a big core part of who I am, and focus on what are the things happening here in Northwest Arkansas and how can I help my community? How do I stay in the know? How do I get involved and pay attention to what's happening on a local level, whether it's the things happening in our government on a local level, whether it's happening in the businesses, the art world, the music world, the theater world. I can't be part of everything, but just wanting to be local is very valuable to me. And I think that families deserve a space in this community, and there isn't anything like Peekaboo here, and bringing it back has been very special.
So that's the connection between Peekaboo and the podcast. They're both based in connection and compassion for your community.
Yes. Yeah.
They're different methods of doing it, but they are connected. And I was like, well, I looked through the notes. I'm like, okay, let's unpack this. This is interesting. But now, not so much. It makes perfect sense as to why you're doing both of those platforms.
Yeah. I love it. I really do. I do. I think it's really interesting because if we get into the meat of just being an entrepreneur and having a business, like I was kind of thinking about this and talking to my husband about it when we were looking at some of the questions to prepare. And I thought, how real do you want me to be? How transparent do I need to be? Because it's been hard. I'll be honest. I wasn't expecting it to be as hard as it is. Not that I'm afraid of challenge, because I love challenges and I love things that are hard. I work well under pressure. My group of close girlfriends, they laughed at me though. They were like, yeah, you got this full-time job because you wanted to make sure you had more balance and structure in your life and consistency. And then you left that job and now you're running a magazine and we never see you. And so it's just kind of comical. And I've really talked a lot with my family, and my husband and I have talked about this a lot, is the sacrifices that we are making here in the beginning of starting this back up is worth it for the long run, and what we want it to become and what we want people to get out of it. So yeah, it's hard, but it's good.
Let's talk a little bit about the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
Heavy lifting of resurrecting this magazine and putting a team together, whether they're contracting or whether they're employees or whatever it is, but you have to have support, right? Your husband's a key piece to it. But talk about that heavy lifting that goes on from an entrepreneurial vision, from that perspective and what that looks like.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many things to be said about that heavy lifting of just even first starting with you individually as a person and internally and thinking, can I do this? Am I crazy? What am I thinking? I mean, even when I sent that text her and said, would you ever consider selling this magazine? I was like, what am I doing?
After you hit send, you're like, whoa.
What did I just do? And then, all my friends are like, well, of course you did that. And I think a lot of the heavy lifting is recognizing that there's a lot of work to be done, and there's a lot of commitment. There's a lot of late nights. There's a lot of relying on other people and finding those people that are excited about it. I had a lot of people come to me who were excited about it that I was like, oh, okay, you want to do some ad sales? Okay, absolutely. And I think that has been a big part of it. One of the things that I think was really interesting for me and kind of a big lesson learned was I knew Peekaboo had a huge presence back in the day. A lot of people knew what it was. A lot of people were connected to it. But trying to get people back on board has been really hard, especially with advertisers. I'll just be very transparent. It's been hard because one thing is we had to update prices. She, the original founder, she had not really changed her advertising scale since she started the magazine in 2008. And so there's just a significant jump in prices. So some of the advertisers that she had before are like, oh yeah, no, like this is too much. And even though we've kept our prices really low and kept that at a comparable, competitive rate for the area, doing a lot of market research on, what makes sense, what can we offer, what are we able to offer. And so we just have kind of had to deal with that a little bit, of that disappointment of, okay, not everybody is ready to jump back in. They want to see it first. But now that we have it out, we're starting to pick up momentum. We're starting to have people come to us and say, "Ooh, look at this. We love what you're doing with it. We love how you've turned it into a larger size magazine. We love how it feels. I mean, how it smells." I will tell you, this is my favorite part about, yes. My favorite part about delivering the magazines, which I won't deliver them always, but I really wanted to do that for the first couple of issues, is do as many deliveries as I could do as part of this magazine. And people pick up the magazine and they smell it. Almost every single person. They're like, "Oh my gosh, it smells so good." And it's hilarious because
Where do you store them? Flower garden?
No, it smells like fresh ink. And so
Okay, all right.
love that.
My mind was...
Oh, yeah. No, yeah, you're thinking it was scratch and sniff. That would be amazing to have a scratch and sniff magazine. This smells like Northwest Arkansas. We're going to smell like Rogers this month. No, it's that fresh ink smell that people are smelling, and they get really excited about it. And they're like, "Oh my gosh, this is so great." And they open it and they flip through, and and kind of it connects with them in a way. It's coming back to that connection of something physical that you're touching, but then the smelling aspect of it is hilarious. Whereas my kids are like, "Oh, great, the car smells like this again. Awesome." So, yeah, but I totally lost my train of thought while we were talking. But that's been a fun part of the magazine.
Yeah, getting people back on board. What I was hearing as you were sharing that part of the journey was competency. And in the lens that I'm presenting competency into this conversation is knowing what you have to do in order for the business to sustain itself, right? And to move forward. There's a question I always ask clients, because my day job is not podcasting. That's the fun thing I get to do. But in my day job as an exit planner and a business coach, is I ask two questions of clients. Do you use profits to support the business, or to use business to build the profits? And it's a different way to look at things. And what I'm hearing, you're using the profits to support the business. And those are more passionate business owners. It's easier to explain the purpose behind what we're doing.
Yeah.
And accountability.
Yeah. It's huge accountability. And I think having a product that is elevated, having a product that advertisers can be excited about. And I've had multiple advertisers get the magazine or text me immediately, "When do I get a copy?" And they've taken pictures of it, posted it on their social media. And that's very exciting. People love seeing things in print. And so for them to get behind that has been really great. And I've built a community here. So a lot of our advertisers right now are people that I've built that community with. I'm not afraid to do a trade with businesses. I'm not afraid to give a business an opportunity to advertise in Peekaboo for free, because there are certain things that I want to support and believe in, and, like the schools and some nonprofits. And we really try to kind of capture a little bit of everything.
Yeah. Now, this is just me being funny, but you need to get a picture of them smelling the magazine.
Oh, I 100% want like video. I do not, and no joke, almost every person, I wish I could kind of like go back and calculate the percentage overall of people that smelled the magazine when I handed it to them. It was the most unexpected, fascinating experience. And because I was like, "Oh my gosh, I don't get a headache from the smell in my car." And people are like, "We love this."
I'm going to go deep here since we're on this.
Okay.
We're making light of it.
Yeah.
But it's connecting an emotion or something, right? What do you think the reason they do that and what goes through their mind when they smell it? Do you think there's some emotion? Because we're talking about connection here, right?
Oh, absolutely. I think that there's a connect. I mean, we're human beings. We live in a physical world, even though we're so consumed by the digital, which there's nothing wrong with the digital. I love the digital space. I spent a lot of years in the digital space with clients on my own, and I think that there are amazing things with that. But there's something about the analog, or the physical and touching something and smelling something. We have senses for a reason. And back I don't know, probably in a psychology class I took in college or something, talking about how smell will trigger memories for people. There's certain smells that I will come across and I'll be like, oh my gosh. And all of a sudden I'll start thinking about my dad, or I'll start thinking about my grandma, or I'll start thinking about where I grew up. And so there's different smells that come in. And so I think, I mean, I have no idea exactly why people are reacting the way that they are, but we don't do a lot of physical print anymore. It's just not a big part of our world. People don't get a newspaper every day. Like I grew up in the 80s and 90s and we got a newspaper every day. We were touching things. The digital space, I didn't even have my first email till I was in college. And so the digital space did not exist in my childhood. It was all touch and smell and feel and experience with your eyes and your nose and your ears, and all of your senses are experiencing these things. And so you had magazines, you'd pick up magazines, you picked up newspapers every day. And I think that probably brings back some nostalgia for people. I think also for some people who maybe that wasn't part of their growing up, it's like, whoa, this is coming. This is overwhelming me in a way that I didn't expect because I don't know this smell or it, so I think it triggers both memories and maybe something new for people.
Yeah. I guess where I'm drawing conclusion here is the more we progress in this world, we're becoming less about connection. I know we're kind of, we're beating all around this connection. I know we're
like, let's get to
this was not my intent, but this is where we are. And this is where we're finding the conversation. To me, the Peekaboo Magazine and the podcast for that matter is just the platform for connection and compassion and contribution to your community and all that. That's circling around the campfire of trust.
For sure. I think so.
When you produce one of the magazines and there's an article in there about something that's going on in the community, how does that and I'm looking at this through the lens of the person that the article might be about, or the organization that the people might be associated with. How does that world, I guess, walk me through what it might be like as someone who's in the magazine or an organization that's in the magazine? What's the hope that you get out of it as you put this together? You do it and what is it you hope that those people, not the readers, what are those people getting out of it?
I mean, in just one easy, sensible answer is that they're seen. People are seen. That, going back to that quote about to be known and to be loved. We want to know people. We want to be known. We want our stories known, sometimes because our stories are really important and they bring about education, or they bring about awareness, or they bring about compassion. One of the things that we decided to do with the magazine, kind of piggybacking off of what the founder, Kim, had done, was a lot of the stories are written by people themselves. And so it's coming from a first person perspective. And I think that there's something really incredibly valuable about that. That doesn't say we can't write articles, but that's been an easy way to kind of get back into this world, is having people submit their own stories. And so then we go through them, we might edit them up a little bit, take some things out, and kind of go back and forth. There's been a couple times where somebody's submitted something, I'm like, it's kind of perfect. Like, I'm not touching this. This story is exactly what it needs to be. And so I think that having that opportunity to share your story through your own voice adds to that connectedness, that you're connecting directly with the reader. And I really have seen some special things happen with the pieces, especially from the most recent issue where we did some stories on childhood cancer awareness. And there's a little boy in our community, and he just turned 2. And he has a childhood cancer that's stage 4 throughout his whole body. And his dad wrote the piece, And it is just beautiful. And I don't know them personally. I knew them. They were recommended to me. I wanted to find some compelling stories that could touch the community, but that the community could really give back to them. And one thing that was really special about that story was that his birthday came during the month of that issue. And so we put out a social media post wishing him a happy birthday, sharing the story, and then encouraging people to give back. And so giving our readers an opportunity to give to this family. So whether it's through donations, sending him a birthday present, whatever it was, we wanted them to feel loved beyond the story. Just because his birthday, 2 years old, I don't want to get into the whole emotion of it, but that's young.
Yeah.
That's very young. And it's, I think that people want their stories told because they have something to share, but really they're also getting something out of it that is twofold. They're getting to share something and they're realizing that they're making an impact on others. That's something that I learned as a storyteller kind of early on when I started sharing things more vulnerably on social media. I know we tend to we just show our highlights. And I went through this experience once where I just got really vulnerable and shared some hard stuff that was going on. And the impact that it had on other people's lives was so powerful for me. And I was like, oh, this is crazy. Like, this touched me in a way that I wasn't expecting because it helped somebody else see things through a lens that they needed, and to feel not alone, and to feel like, oh, somebody else gets it, somebody else understands. And that's what's really important, I think, for Peekaboo, and especially as families and parents. And sometimes we're so disconnected, even though we have our phones and we have the social media, you're not really fully connected to people when you're just scrolling. And again, I will say there's nothing wrong with that because I love social media. I love the digital space. But I really love that there's something that people can look at that they can touch and smell and connect with in multiple ways.
Yeah, I've got clients, and when they're being funny with me, they're like, hey, you're the trust guy,
You do trust falls also? Do you do that with your client?
The very first one I did, so I had a presentation and I got my kids together. This is when they were in high school, and I had them do the trust fall.
Oh.
And the long story short, my son, the older one, the bigger one, was going to be the one falling, and his younger sister was going to catch him. And he didn't trust her, so he wouldn't fall back. He went forward.
Oh my goodness.
We have so the trust guy has a real trust issue at home.
That nothing to do with you. That
he's like, I'm not going that way. She's not going to catch me. I can catch myself going forward. And so
accurate.
But the people will ask, clients or prospects, whatever, it's like, well, what's the fastest way to build trust? Vulnerability is
absolutely
my answer. And that's the story I just heard, is around vulnerability, whether it's through recognition or care. I know we use the word compassion, but you just described a story, especially with the 2-year-old, recognizing the family, recognizing the ailment, this is a person in our community.
Right.
It's all about recognition, and that's engaging. And that's also another the behind the story that I'm hearing here is about engaging with the community and making sure that the community's engaged with one another.
Absolutely. I think that's so important. And I think it just gives opportunity for people to learn more about each other, and learn about people they didn't know existed in this community, if that makes sense. I think it's easy. There's certain people, and not to knock content creators or influencers or whatever the word is that we're using now, because I've worked with so many of them, and they are amazing, wonderful, fantastic people, and they build a lot of trust in this community. They give suggestions on places to go eat, places to go take your kids to playgrounds, events to go to, but they're not representing everyone. And so when you get an opportunity to represent somebody different than someone that's just telling you where to go and what to do or what to be a part of, and just sharing kind of a personal story, you get to see people in a different way, in a different light. And I think that there's something really unique about that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's unique, right? I mean, really, I think there needs to be more of that.
I do too. I think in the business world, there's such a push right now for storytelling. And I think some businesses really get it and some do not. And they just don't realize, like, hey, if we just share a story, or if we, get in front of a camera, which is hard for people to get in front of a camera, get in front of a microphone and be a little vulnerable and share about that. One of my favorite businesswomen to follow is Sarah Blakely. She created Spanx. I don't know if you're familiar with her story. I love her content because she is real and she's raw, and she's always like, these are some things that I did to start my business. And they're like these unhinged things that you're like, what? You really did that? And I love that she is just honest about, like, I did things that were crazy and I put myself in rooms that I wanted to be in, and I did the things that helped me grow this. And I think that that's valuable, but she's never not been real with who she is. And I love that.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many ways to unpack that situation, and it's vulnerability. That's what she's doing. She's being, we look at it as open, honest, or whatever, but that's being vulnerable to admit to some things that just didn't work. That's hard.
Yes.
Now, it's something I'm going to bite on. I almost brought this up 2 other times since we've been talking.
All right, I'll stop.
So now I haven't lost it. I kept it in the back of my head. So let's go to storytelling.
Yes.
This is my personal opinion.
Okay.
That some of the best storytellers and those that are effective storytellers are all small town people. Did you grow up in a small town?
Ish. Yes. I mean, for California, I grew up in a small town. So I grew up in Modesto, California, which is just for some people, they're very aware of it now because of certain events that have happened in Modesto. But when I grew up, it was a pretty small place. It was a huge farming community. It's in the Central Valley. It's in the northern part of the Central Valley of California. It's where a lot of produce is grown. It's where everyone gets their almonds. It is a very big farming community. It's changed a significant amount since then, but that's where I grew up. I grew up in a farming community. I also did not grow up on a farm. I grew up in the suburbs of Modesto, and I had family that we told stories all the time. That was just a big part of growing up. We are talkers, if you can't tell. And there was always something fun to tell. I mean, my mom used to tell stories about her childhood and growing up, and she comes from a big Italian family. And so, dinner around the table there's like 10 conversations going on at once. And it's really funny. My husband's family is not like that. They're very much focus on one story that's happening around the table. Whereas I was used to, like, there's a story going on here, there's a story there, there's a story here. And I'm like, I'm tuned into all of them so that I can give my input when needed. And it just is a big part of growing up. And I loved storytelling as a kid. And I used to write poetry. I teased my husband that I would talk about the poems that I wrote about the boys I had crushes on. And he thinks it's hilarious because he's read some of them. And then how I got into writing and being on a school paper and sharing feature stories. And so that was very focused on the humanity and the great things that people were doing, and not necessarily like just straight news, but who someone is and what they're about.
So I always have this curveball question that I like.
Okay, bring it.
I don't ever do it. You're bringing this out in me. Well, okay. We have been on this whole platform, and it's storytelling, and you're doing it in 2 different ways. If you weren't doing this, if this wasn't, what would you do if you weren't in the world of storytelling? What would you do?
I honestly have no idea. I can't imagine doing anything else. It's just been in a different medium throughout my life. So whether it's writing, whether it's film, whether it's podcasting, media marketing, it's always been a part of just who I am. And I really can't imagine doing anything else. Like, That's kind of weird. At one point, it's really funny when I think about, because I have kids and they ask me, like, well, what did you want to be when you were a kid? And I tell them the different things I wanted to be when I was younger. And at one point I wanted to be a veterinarian, which everyone laughs at because I'm not a huge animal. So I love animals. I am in love with one of our dogs right now. He is the sweetest thing ever. And it's funny. I was like, do you ever think I would love a dog this much? Yes, I love this dog so much. But I also really was interested in law. And in high school, I did mock trial and I wanted to go on and be a Supreme Court judge. So I guess if I was doing anything else, that's what I would be doing.
And, I could see I can connect that to storytelling.
Yeah, of course.
There's a lot of writing with Daniel. Yeah, there's a lot of writing in the legal world.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the reason that was a curveball question is I was looking for purpose.
Oh, purpose.
And how purposeful you are with your vocation. And you passed the test. Because you struggled with trying to find something to come up with that didn't connect you to storytelling.
Yeah.
And you did.
Yeah.
Legal, it's storytelling.
Still storytelling.
It's still in a written form.
Yeah.
So there's lots of purpose behind what you do.
Yeah. I love what I get to do.
A girl.
You see this commentary or these posts that talk about what would you tell your younger self, or what would your younger self think of you now? And I just think she would be freaking out. She'd be like, what? How did you get there? How did you get to owning a magazine? That's a dream. And I think, and it's interesting because for so long, it wasn't a dream. I would have never thought that I would be here loving podcasting, loving owning a magazine. I mean, even the podcasting part of things is a great story. I was working on a different entrepreneurial, just dream of a business that had to do with photography and art and local art. And I was having dinner with some of my business partners, and one of them, we're standing there waiting for a table, and she just looks at me and she goes, the next thing you're going to do is podcasting. She goes, I'm manifesting that for you. And I was like, okay. I was like, no, I have no time. I'm not doing podcasting. And less than a year later, we launched our podcast. So there you have it. Yeah, the seed was planted and I absolutely love it. So it really fits well with who I am.
So I'm going to pivot slightly.
Absolutely.
From storytelling to books.
Mm-hmm.
If you had to recommend a book,
oh gosh,
for somebody that says, hey, I want to be in journalism, or I want to be, some form of storytelling. Do you have any books or articles or news sources that you would point them towards to help them down that path?
I was not expecting that question. I am not even expecting.
That wasn't the curveball. The curveball already threw that one at you.
Yeah, curveball. I passed it, and I was going to always pass it. That's a really hard question right now because I haven't been actively reading recently. I just haven't made the time for things that I love and want to do. I also listen to a lot of books on audio.
Okay.
I think that there's a lot of content out there that is encouraging and inspiring. A lot of women who speak and write are very encouraging to me. I think that it's really important to pursue the things that you're passionate about, within reason. I think that sometimes the timing has to work out perfectly. So I'm kind of going off of what you said. I don't have a recommendation for a book. I'm sorry. I own a magazine and I don't have a recommendation for a book, but we have recommendations for books in our magazine. Terrible. Man, this is embarrassing.
That was not intentional, I promise.
It's totally fine. It's fine. I think there's just a lot swirling in my head. I'm also I can remember experiences with people, conversations that I've had. I remember faces really well. But when it comes to names, I struggle, whether it's a musician, an author. I'm like, what is that person's name again? I'm trying. to remember. It's kind of like one of my son's classmates who was trying to think of the first president, and she said his name was what did she say? George Roosevelt. And not George Washington. I was like, I can resonate with her a significant amount. And so that's something that I do a lot of practicing, is remembering people's names. I like to see them written. I like to see them in a visual way so that I can recall that. So when I'm doing audiobooks, I'm not always remembering who this audiobook is. Even the names of podcasts, I forget sometimes. This is embarrassing that I'm sharing this, but it's just real. It's just who I am. It doesn't mean that I'm not engaged in the content. It doesn't mean that I am not finding value in the content. I just am not really great with names.
I've got a podcaster question for you, from one podcaster to another. One of the things that I guess the secondary benefit that I never appreciated by doing a podcast is the art of being present in the moment. Now, I hope my wife is not listening to this.
We can ask her later.
Evidently, I don't do that very well.
What's name?
Bennett.
Okay. We'll let her know.
Yeah. So when you're with a guest and that, there's connection. I know here we are with connection again, but to me, it's about being present and listening.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's a form of connection.
It really is. It really is. I think it's important to be able to reiterate what people are saying to you as well. Like when you're connecting, and it shows that you're listening, and it shows that you're engaged, especially in a world where we're just like this all the time.
Yes.
And I find myself sometimes like that. And my kids are like, Mom, I need your attention. And
you're like, there's this really cute dog on here and I got to watch this video.
Or a cat.
Right.
Or a baby. Yes. But yeah, that's really important. I think being present is so important in podcasting, because you can have all your questions. So for our podcast, we prepare questions. We kind of have like a general theme of what we want to focus on, because it's story driven. It's driven by their story. We also have a bookend where we start our podcast with a question asking how they ended up in Northwest Arkansas, or if they grew up. And then we bookend that with what's their favorite thing about Northwest Arkansas at the end. And then the middle is the meat, the part of their story that is unique to them. And I think, having those questions ahead of time and being prepared is really important. But you also have to let conversation take shape and go the direction it needs to go based on what you're thinking, what you're hearing, and being present with that person. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, listening's key.
It really is.
Yeah, well, this has been a great conversation. Yeah.
I love talking. Obviously.
Well, best of luck with
Thank you.
Your ventures. I mean, I think it's fantastic what you're doing in this community. So
thank you.
Thank you for what you do.
All right. Well, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
And if people want to find you, or they want to find the podcast, or they want to find Peekaboo, where do they find you?
Yeah. The best place to start, for the podcast, we're on every platform. So People of Northwest Arkansas, super easy to find. We are also on Instagram, People of NWA Podcast. Peekaboo Magazine is peekaboomagazine.com. So very easy. And then on Instagram, it is peekaboomagazine.nwa. So specifically for this area. Yeah. So
and a physical copy of Peekaboo.
Oh, physical. You can find them kind of everywhere. So just follow your nose. Yeah, you can smell them a mile away. We are putting Peekaboo magazines out and about throughout Northwest Arkansas, from Fayetteville all the way up to Bella Vista and into Siloam Springs. And they are at museums, libraries, children's centers, schools, and anywhere you would take your kids, really. And we're still expanding that. So we're not hitting every business. We're learning of new businesses or businesses that want it. So if you want to help, you can tell us a business that we need to put Peekaboo at.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Well, thanks for being on the podcast.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.